I'm Larry Menti. Common Core and the Standard Balanced Assessment Test in the state of Delaware has been controversial from the very beginning. On one of the past Delaware ways, we had the Secretary of Education in, Mark Murphy, and I asked him specifically if parents were able to opt out of the test, and this is what he said. Are parents allowed to opt out of it?
No, parents are not allowed to opt out of it. Testing is a part of school. Assessments are a part of school. It's a part of life. It's what we do here in public school, and it's incredibly important.
Well, that answer started a slew of controversy, especially on social media. I received tweets, Facebook posts, emails saying that what he said was just not true, some even calling for the Secretary of Education's resignation. One of the people that reached out to me was Yvonne Johnson, who is the Vice President of Advocacy and Common Core Lead for the Delaware PTA. I appreciate you being here. What set you off with the interview?
Well, thank you for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity to rebuttal what Secretary Murphy said. Well, first thing that really upset me was that he said it's an academic checkup of our students. And it's really not, because it is a test that does not measure growth. To me, a test that is given at the beginning of the year and the end of the year is how a student's growth is measured, because many students come in from different backgrounds and they don't all have the same level of, you know, let's say literacy or mathematics.
Couldn't this be a semantics debate, though? When he said academic test, I thought what he meant was whether the Common Core standards are being taught to the satisfaction of the district and to the state. That's what I thought he meant. I didn't think he meant that it was a checkup on the growth of the student, although it could be from year to year. Does it have to be in the same year?
Well, I do believe it should be in the same year, and he does say, I've met with him many times, talked to him at length and with the governor about this, and they feel that you can measure growth from spring to spring, but you just can't. The test results that you get for these students are returned to parents in August.
We would want more testing?
No, we would not want more testing.
How would you measure growth without more testing?
Because if you had a test that you would, a short test, maybe taking an hour and a half at the beginning of the school year, where a teacher evaluates how a student is, where they are, you know, what levels they are, and then you evaluate them at the end of the school year, same test, or maybe a little different, but, you know, covering the same material, and that's an hour and a half. That's 3 hours of testing. The schedule I submitted to you is an example of how much testing we're doing just in the junior year. So let's talk about the junior year.
I should point out that you gave me a sheet of all the tests that a student has to take on a year and standardized testings throughout the year. But you had SATs on there, so it's for the older grades, not for the younger grades, right?
Right. Well, Smarter Balance, though, the most testing that we're doing in Smarter Balance is in the junior year of high school. It's 13 hours of testing. So the students are taking, let's just look at a junior student starting, let's say, in March. The junior student is taking the Smarter Balance assessment throughout the months until June 1. That's on ELA, which is English Language Arts, and Mathematics. Then they're also taking APs, SATs, SAT subject tests, ACTs, and then they also are taking finals and other chapter tests that their teachers are giving them. If you speak to our educators, they'll tell you Smarter Balance is phrased in a way to trick up the kids. Yes, listen, I support Common Core state standards because I believe we need to prepare our students for college and career readiness. But parents are concerned about the test, and that is why they want to opt their children out.
I'm glad you've got to that, because that's the sound bite we played, and that's your other problem.
That is my other problem.
Because he said, no, parents can't opt out.
Okay, so the law says, and I gave you some verbiage prior to coming on the show of what it says. The State Board of Education and the Secretary of Education is spinning this, making parents feel intimidated. I could give you lists of questions that Delaware PTA has received from parents, hundreds of them. They're terrified because they're getting letters from their local school districts, and I don't blame those local school districts because they're being instructed by the State Board and the Secretary of Education to respond this way, saying that if they don't test 95% of each student's cell, there are like 37 cells. If you don't have 95% participation, it affects adequate yearly progress, what they call AYP.
It also affects federal funding.
Right. Well, I would like you to tell me one school that's ever not gotten their federal funding. I mean, honestly, let me
But they are tied.
They're tied. However, the federal government does not tell us as a state how we assess our children. That is a decision that is made locally within our own state. But here's the thing. If you read the law, it says that the school, the LEA, the school or the school district cannot determine if tell a student, oh, you can't take the test because that child maybe is a spec ed student or whatever. They can't decide. But there's nothing in the law that says the parent can't decide.
Let me explain what you just said for a second. So what you're saying is the school board, not the school board, but the school board, but especially the state, is saying to the schools, we don't want you to select a child and say they can't take the test, to rig the numbers, to make certain that that's the important part.
That's the important part.
But the parents do have the right to opt out.
Absolutely. And let me quote Brian Touche, who works for the Department of Education. He is the assessment person. We've had town halls, and at Delaware PTA has hosted several town halls, and he said there are no consequences for students who take the test, and there are no consequences for students who don't take the test. If a parent, and that's what he said. So Delaware PTA, we voted, and we are supporting a parent's right to choose. We're not telling parents to opt out. We're not telling parents we support parent opt-out. We support their decision to choose. Just like school choice, where you go in and you decide where you want your child to go to school, you submit a choice application. This is the same idea. A parent doesn't, they're not comfortable with the test. They don't think that the test is valuable. It's not giving them valuable data.
I get it. We're running out of time.
Okay.
What do you think of the Secretary of Education?
He's a very nice man. That's all I'll say.
But you were upset with him.
I am upset with him. Listen, I like him as a person, but we do not agree on the subject.
Do you think he purposely misled people?
No, I think he really believes that. I don't think he purposely misleads people. What I think is everybody's running scared. I believe everybody is, like you said.
So when he said the parents can't opt out, you don't think he was purposely misleading parents?
I think he's saying that because he doesn't want parents to opt out. I think the thought of too many parents opting out scares him because it would affect our adequate yearly progress and how we look as a state. So I think that, and I'm not defending him because I don't think he should have said that. I think he should have said what I just said, that there are no consequences for students if they take the test or they don't take the test.
Okay, and now we are out of time, but I'd like to continue this conversation. And I know there's other people who would like to join the conversation, and we invite them on the program as well, as we invite the Secretary of Education back on the program to defend what he said.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yvonne Johnson from the Vice President, Advocacy and Common Core Lead for the Delaware PTA.
That's right.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's it for the Delaware Way. I'm Larry Menti. Stick around for another thing.